Welcome back to BLOCKTV. This is Links in the Chain. Now, the IBM blockchain is one of the widest and biggest used big enterprise blockchains around. And today we're joined by Dr. Nigel Gopie, head of global marketing for the IBM blockchain. Nigel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, jumping right into it, the IBM blockchain with its Food Trust seemingly tracks everything. And now you guys have a newly announced partnership to track olive oil. Why olive oil?
Well, with olive oil, consumers really don't understand the process that goes behind it. There's been reports about fraudulent olive oil out there in the system. And so now we can have trust in terms of the oil that consumers purchase. We can see exactly the farms are grown, that they're from Tunisia, they're using traditional methods, it's cold pressed. We understand the analyses that go into each bottle, and each bottle actually, you're able to track the bottle you purchased and see dates and the facilities that it actually went through. So you have better trust in terms of the system of what you're purchasing.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. You know, most consumers don't realize the level of fraud that happens with olive oil. They just simply pick up the bottle. Now, you know, the blockchain for many people who interact with it is kind of complicated. Right now, the UI UX isn't great. How with the Food Trust, are these olive oil producers, you know, mostly small time, kind of organizations, how do they deal with the technical side of actually interacting with the IBM blockchain?
Well, we use the current processes that exist today, and we get those processes digitized. So if there is a process that an organization uses, we take that process and automatically send information to our blockchain. So we're trying to use what's already out there to complement the current technologies. In cases where the smallholder farmers may not have the technology, it goes up the chain to maybe the co-op. The co-op might have the technology that allows us to upload the information and then securely share it across the supply chain.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, I'm sure you guys have done, you know, your market research on this, but how many customers, you know, as of right now, actually go when they're at the store, and I'm assuming it's like some sort of QR code, are they actually scanning it to track it from farm to table?
Yeah, so we do have QR codes on different products that we have available being served up from IBM Blockchain. And what we have found, and a large retailer, Carrefour, has found that consumers actually do stop, they do look at the product to upward of 1.5 minutes and interact with that product. And as you know, with so many products out there, the fact that consumers stop, they scan it, they look at the product, see what's in there, is really quite telling. And they're actually seeing a brand uplift in terms of sales and customer affinity toward the brands that have this QR code that allows consumers to better understand the product that they're eating, where it's coming from, and the processes that went behind it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in a similar vein, you know, CES 2020 just finished, and IBM's blockchain was actually probably the biggest blockchain project on display with its Farmer Connect partnership. Tell me a little bit about Farmer Connect.
Sure. So Farmer Connect really aims to connect coffee drinkers to the farm. And so not only are you able to enjoy your cup of coffee, you can trust where it's coming from. Consumers really want to understand where their coffee is coming from. They want coffee that's sustainably grown and responsibly sourced. And with Farmer Connect, we are allowing consumers to connect directly to the farmer along the coffee journey. The best thing about Farmer Connect is not only can you understand where your coffee is coming from, you can actually use the same blockchain rails and you're able to donate back to the community. So you can choose causes that are important to you in the communities that are growing and producing these coffees. And later this year, you're able to tip right back to the farmer.
Mm-hmm. And now, will that being paid back and those tipping, does that have to be done with cryptocurrencies?
No, it does not have to be done with cryptocurrencies. We're using the rails because what blockchain allows us to do is the visibility. It allows us to understand if I put in 50 cents or $1 or whatever, I'm able to see that decrease in my wallet and see exactly where it goes. So I now have accountability to where my money is going to ensure that it's doing the thing that I'm thinking it's doing. So there's greater trust in where that transaction goes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as time goes on, and with sustainability and sustainable farming becoming more of a hot button topic, the need for these type of technologies will only grow. And that kind of brings me to my next point where, the IBM Food Trust is basically the main consumer-facing blockchain project. I mean, you guys have commercials being aired during football games. Why have you guys decided that the Food Trust should seemingly be this flagship blockchain project?
When you think about blockchain, what it really does is it helps the decentralized databases. It really helps us to connect people in ways that they've never been connected before to increase trust. With the food supply, the global food supply, it's brought us a lot of benefits, but there are a lot of friction points. It's very complex. Sometimes it's opaque. We don't necessarily see all the steps in the process. Food is something that touches all of us. And so we really believe that this is the best, or one of the best use cases for blockchain, where we're able to demystify the process, connect consumers directly to the people producing the food that they're eating, and help increase the efficiency in the supply chain that can actually benefit all of us. So it's a really important work that we're doing to impact the lives of the world. Mm-hmm. And we chose to do this with blockchain because of that reason.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, you have me convinced, but when you guys do approach, these producers, retailers, what is the hardest part of the sell on getting them to put their product or their process onto the Food Trust or the blockchain?
Yeah, one of the interesting things about blockchain is it's really about a team sport. Unlike other technologies where you're really focused on how do you optimize your business, with blockchain, you need to think about how you can help the industry. How can you help your business partners as well as helping yourself? So there's a psychological aspect about it as well, in terms of how do we ensure that if we are on the blockchain together, we're providing benefit to every participant along that chain. And so ensuring that the farmer is going to benefit, ensuring the processor, the manufacturer may benefit, ensuring the retailer, consumer may benefit, enables us to all use and adopt and grow and get value from this blockchain. So that's the biggest challenge. And once folks see some of these use cases, see some of the work that we're doing, whether it's with Farmer Connect or with Terra de Lisa, extra virgin olive oil, they really get a sense of how this can actually benefit and change the food supply system.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, you guys had major success, with the Food Trust. It really does seem like every single day you announce a new partnership. What's next for IBM Blockchain?
Well, we are, for IBM Blockchain, we're really going into a lot more consumer facing. So we're doing API calls to get to our apps to put us in the hands of consumers. So consumers can really benefit from understanding where their food or their products, it doesn't necessarily need to be food. It could be clothing, for example, or jewelry, or different types of products along a supply chain, understanding better where it's coming from so that they can make decisions about their purchases.
Mm-hmm. Wow, very cool. Now, I would say, who would you consider, to be the main competitor? It kind of seems like you guys have this monopoly in that niche of the Food Trust. Who would you say is your biggest competitor? Would it be Hyperledger?
So with IBM Blockchain, we actually use open source. We use Hyperledger Fabric as our technology. So we don't necessarily see the competition per se. We actually encourage a lot more companies to get on to provide that insight, the trust, the transparency across the supply chain. We don't think it's just any one company. We actually believe there's going to be several companies that help the supply chain for food, at least across the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, clearly the blockchain has proven itself again and again to be a major asset for supply chains. And you guys have already, obviously, taken care of the food aspect. What's the next vertical that you think is just waiting to be taken over by blockchain?
So we are transforming across multiple industries. We do have dozens of in-production blockchains today. And so when you think about how blockchain can help, it's really about looking at industries that are fraught with manual paper-based exchanges of information. Ones in which trust is really important with the different partners. And others where there's high volume of information that's being transferred. Clearly food, we're thinking of pharmaceutical industries, and then any other industries in which trust is important. As I said, there might be jewelry, clothing. So a lot of the verticals that involve a very complex supply chain where transparency is required, is ripe for disruption with blockchain.
Now, I know IBM got its start, many, many years ago. Essentially, if you look at it now, a hole punch machines, very basic technology that really in itself, transformed the way business was done. Now you fast forward to 2020 already, and you see how far IBM has come with the technologies across the board. What do you see 10, 20 years from now for blockchain? Will it be recognizable at all, or will it go to a path that none of us can seemingly predict?
That's a great question. Technology changes so quickly, it's really hard to predict the future sometimes. We really see blockchain as being the enabler for all transactions occurring. And so more and more, it's going to help bridge the difficulties associated with the paper-based transactions that occur today. So we're going to see a lot more of that, and people won't talk about blockchain anymore. It just will be the way that things are done, just like the cloud. We used to talk about this cloud many years ago. Now we just assume things are on the cloud. And so that's one piece of it. The other element is in terms of the vast amounts of data that are now interconnected. So about 20% of the world's data is searchable, 80% are locked within the silos of organizations. Blockchain allows us to have the platform to share data. And so where we really see this is going is having technologies and analytics and artificial intelligence on top that's able to harness the insights to provide new directions for different organizations because they've never been able to unlock those insights before.
Now, it seems, especially like these solutions that you're speaking about, as well as, so far the way the Food Trust has been used, has mostly been dealing with companies, enterprises, businesses first, and then using those tools kind of, consumers kind of get exposed to it, as a byproduct. When do you see, at what point does the blockchain actually go directly to the everyday person, directly to the consumer, as a bottom-up approach instead of the top-down approach that we've seen so far?
Well, 1/3 of global consumers now would actually change their brand if it doesn't align with their personal values. They're willing to pay more, change their buying habits, and go to new brands for that purpose. And we really see that CMOs and different companies are paying attention to this. And they want to think about how to provide information to consumers to make those decisions, to show them that their brand is sustainable or ethically responsible. And so I think more and more we are seeing brands using blockchain technology because of the consumer and putting the technology in the hands of consumer. Consumers may not necessarily know it, but underlying some of these QR codes where they're going and pulling information about the supply chain, it's all driven by blockchain technology. In our case, IBM Blockchain. We have the coffee, we have olive oil, we have fish and seafood. So we have a whole host of different products across the food supply chain.
Well, Nigel, all this talk of the Food Trust is getting me hungry. Thank you so much for joining us and filling us in on what's kind of going behind the scenes at IBM Blockchain. We're looking forward to any new announcements you may have. Happens every day. For all of our viewers at home, if you want more on cryptocurrency or blockchain news, make sure to check us out at blocktv.com.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.